Now, with the state government abandoning its prosecution of Apache Northwest over the Veranus Island gas disaster, all eyes are now on the Mines Minister Norman Moore. A series of legal actions by Apache have forced the minister to sit on an independent report he commissioned into the disaster 3 years ago and have prevented him from revealing a word of its contents. I spoke with the minister earlier about when the public will know the whole truth and what it means to be a good corporate citizen in WA. Minister, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.
What does it say about a company that has a major industrial accident, then spends years frustrating the government investigation, and in this case, preventing you from telling the public the results of that investigation?
Well, it simply demonstrates that they are concerned about any adverse publicity that will come out of this. Obviously, they're concerned about any prosecutions that might arise as a respect of what they've done, and they've gone to every length that they could possibly go to avoid any knowledge being made available to the public. And I understand that, but I don't appreciate it much.
Does it say anything about them as a corporate citizen that they would stop you from getting the report that you commissioned, then prevent you from being able to talk about it? I mean, what does that say about it?
Well, interestingly, Apache, apart from this, has been quite a good citizen in Western Australia. In fact, they've invested a lot of money and are still very active in domestic gas particularly. What's a good corporate citizen is a very subjective assessment. But as I said a moment ago, I can understand why they are seeking to look after their reputation, because, as you'd be aware, in the oil and gas business, reputations are very important.
I don't think anyone would take issue that they've got the right to protect their reputation, but is this the way to do it? You know, frustrating government investigations, basically muzzling government ministers. Is this the way to do it?
Well, they've used all the legal avenues available to them, and it's not for me to judge whether the legal avenues are appropriate or not. But they've used what's available to them under the law of Western Australia, and whether people like them doing that's another thing, but they're entitled to do it.
Is there any point in this process where you can see that they've acted in the public interest rather than in their corporate self-interest?
Oh, I don't think they're operating in the public interest at all, that they're looking after their own interests, no question about that.
For a company that cut off a third of the state's gas supply, do you think that's an appropriate way for them to have approached this whole thing? I would have thought after such a major incident that they would have been cooperative, that they would have been looking to very quickly deal with the issues that arose from that incident and move forward.
I think you should ask them about that. I don't know what motivates them other than what I've explained up till now, that they are seeking to maintain
I'm asking
their
you what you think about that as Minister. I mean, you expressed some real frustration and anger about it yesterday.
Oh, and I still am. I mean, I'm frustrated and angry with the system that allows all this to happen. I would have thought when I first became the Minister and received the first NOPSA report that, OK, we'll get this out to the public. I'll get Bills and Agostini to do their report, an independent assessment of what happened, and then that would become public and everybody would know what happened. That's what I expected would happen, and that's what I thought was the appropriate thing to happen. But as soon as the report was done, of course, then the litigation began. And as I said a moment ago, that's what the courts and the laws provide for, and they've taken advantage of that.
Is there something wrong with the system that you can fix? I mean, even if you look at the penalties for the prosecution, I think you've said that the maximum penalty they would have faced is $10,000. I mean, that's not even top pocket change for a big company like this, is it?
No, the penalty is insignificant. I think it's $50,000 for a corporation, $10,000 for an individual. I'm going to look at that. I don't think that's adequate by a long way. But as I was suggesting earlier, the real penalty for a company like Apache is not $50,000 or 50 million, whatever it might be. It is the reputation of the company. And they are very anxious to try and preserve their reputation.
So you've been sitting on this independent report now for, 3 years?
Yeah.
When will the public get to see it?
Now I'm doing what the court required me to do, and that's to provide procedural fairness to Apache. They can have a copy of the report. I'm awaiting advice as to how long that would be. Once I've satisfied the court's requirements, then I will make it public, and it'll be tabled in Parliament.
Both the opposition and the Greens said today that you should be tabling this report in Parliament. Why can't you do that?
If I table it, it's covered by parliamentary privilege, so what's said in Parliament about the report is covered by privilege and can't be action can't be taken in respect to that in the courts. The moment I speak about it publicly outside, however, the legal advice to me is that could be construed as publishing it, contrary to the commitment given to the Supreme Court. So I'm not prepared to take that risk at the moment. but we'll wait and see how long they require the report in terms of procedural fairness before I decide whether to accept Mr Ford's advice or not.
Is there anything that Apache can now do to block that report's release? They've got it, they're looking at it. Is there anything they can do to frustrate you further?
They can't stop me tabling it in Parliament. They may get an injunction from the court. I don't know. I mean, it's an option that they'd possibly be seeking, and the injunction might be that the report shouldn't be made public. But no injunction from the court can prevent it being tabled in Parliament.
Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.